Welcome to another episode of Cooking Up Justice. Today I am cooking up justice with Sydney Hardgraves, the Executive Director of Holly's House, and Kathy Boyd, the owner of Boyd Electric and a board member of Holly's House. We are going to learn how to make the gourmet hot dogs that Holly's House will be serving in their trailer at the Westside Nightclub Festival.
Cookin' Up Justice with Attorney Gayle Gerling Pettinga.
Come on inside and cook up justice with me and Kathy Boyd. Today I am cooking up justice with my good friend Kathy Boyd. Kathy is a board member of Holly's House, and she also is the owner of an electric company, Boyd Electric. And she's the daughter of a fry cook, and she has spent her whole life cooking, and we are going to be making gourmet hot dogs. We are inside the trailer that Holly House uses for the Westside Nightclub Fall Festival. And I've never been inside one of these food trailers, so I'm pretty excited to see how they do it and what it's like. We're going to be making gourmet hot dogs. That is what Holly's House serves to raise money when they are at the Westside Fall Festival. So, Kathy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thanks, Gail. I'm glad you're here today. We're going to make some gourmet hot dogs. We serve 5 different kinds of hot dogs at the Fall Festival. All the money goes into our fund, of course, to provide services for our clients here at Holly's House.
Right.
So I've got some stuff started. I'm going to do a little chopping while we have a conversation, throw a couple of things on the grill, and we'll make some hot dogs up.
All right. Which 3 hot dogs are we going to be making?
I am going to make you a North Carolina dog, which you're going to love. It has pulled pork barbecue on it, along with coleslaw. And there's something about the mayonnaise and the coleslaw that brings out the sweetness of the barbecue sauce that makes that hot dog just exceptional.
Right.
And since your last one was done with Erica Taylor, I figured I'd do a Chicago dog.
Right.
Since she's from Chicago, South Side.
What a great idea.
And so I thought that would be a good thing to do. And then I'm going to do a Philly dog.
Okay.
And I'm going to do the Philly dog because everybody's familiar with
Right.
a Philly cheese sandwich, and that's
Okay.
what this is, except it's a hot dog. And so we throw some onions and peppers on the grill and get those cooking. And I keep part of my grill hot, the other part of my grill is cool. So as I'm getting things warmed up, I can move them right over so that I can do the serving. Of course, at the Fall Festival, we have lots of steam tables and compartments that we've figured out works really well for this. I know
How many people do you have in this? Because I sense I'm in the way.
Right. Well, there's as many as 8 people in here during the Fall Festival. And we have people outside serving drinks.
Right.
We have people who are taking money. We have people who are making hot dogs, and people running the grill. And we also do lemon shake-up. So that's usually my station. I like to stay in the back and squeeze the lemons and do the shake-ups in the back. And I leave all of this to somebody else. So we got a little onions and peppers going on, and I've got the barbecue the barbecue already heated up here, and some hot dogs that I've already grilled up, and grab a hot dog bun here. And our hot dogs that we serve at the Fall Festival, they're all beef. We buy them from a local distributor, so they're a very good hot dog as far as the quality. And it's got a big bun, and they really pile up the toppings at the Fall Festival and give you a fork because you got to get all the leftovers once you get that hot dog out. With the North Carolina dog, one of our board members makes all the barbecue, and so we'll take the barbecue and we'll pile it up on top of the hot dog. I love tongs. I think tongs are for everything. You just keep a towel, you wipe them off, and you pick the next thing, and that way you don't have 100 different. Yeah, you don't have 100 different utensils.
What a great idea.
The only thing I can't do barbecue sauce with this. I haven't been able. I can dip a little bit, but I have to have a brush for that. So, but for everything else, I just think that that tongs work for everything.
That is looking so good. I would have not ever thought to put coleslaw with barbecue that way.
Well,
yummy.
Hey.
We'll see what.
All right, now remind me again. This is
called a North Carolina dog, and some people call it a Tar Heel because.
This is what they serve at the
apparently this is
tailgates.
Exactly. This is the tailgate if you were going to see a Tar Heels game.
Okay,
so,
all right. Well,
and we'll give it a try.
Wow. Delicious.
Cookin Up Justice with Attorney Gayle Gerling Pettinga.
So, the Chicago dog has absolutely everything on it. I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely everything. So, what I like to do is I like to put the pepperonis on the bottom. So I do pepperonis on the bottom. We're gonna do regular yellow mustard, you know, the normal that we love. Then we do a little spicy mustard with it on the other side, a little spicy. Sweet pickle relish, which is how most of us eat our dogs, with just a little relish, maybe a little onions. But in Chicago, you do everything. You do everything.
Right.
So we've got some dill pickles.
Oh, I love pickles.
We have some diced yellow onions. So we got banana peppers that go on there.
That's great.
This is cucumber.
Hadn't thought about
Put a
that.
little cucumber. Some diced bell pepper. And we top it off with some lettuce. And that is a Chicago dog.
That is
I'm sure
gorgeous.
there's probably some.
I'm going to have a party in my backyard
And
just do hot dogs.
Just do hot dogs. Have all the toppings. I'll give you the recipes.
That's
We've got
right.
5 different ones.
Okay, okay.
Cookin Up Justice with Attorney Gayle Gerling Pettinga.
So this, just like the Philly, the Philly cheese, has the provolone cheese, has the peppers and the onions.
Right. Good.
I like, this is one of my favorite dogs right here. So
All right.
cheers.
Cheers.
Cookin Up Justice with Attorney Gayle Gerling Pettinga.
So, Sydney, I'm so happy that you agreed to participate in Cooking Up
Thank
Justice
you.
today.
This is fun. This is fun.
I certainly know a lot about Holly's house. I've had several tours and served on the board, but I know a lot of people in our community would like to know more, and I think they'd really benefit from the experience of meeting you and having a tour of Holly's house and seeing
Wonderful.
what's here.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Sounds like fun.
Good. So, can you give me a little history of Holly's house, how it got started, and who was the driving force behind it?
It really originated with one of our local sex crimes detectives, Brian Turpin, and he'd heard of a model for serving children who've been abused, particularly through the investigation of a crime, and felt that that model would be a good fit for our community. So he started driving that conversation forward, and as he did that, he partnered with Holly Dunn Pendleton. She experienced a very serious crime when she was in college down in Kentucky and survived that crime, and so we had an investigator and a survivor kind of working hand in hand to create what is now Holly's house. Yeah, and really I think their ultimate goal was to just help for victims who've experienced intimate crimes such as child abuse, domestic violence, sexual assault, create an environment where they first seek help when they first come forward to report a crime, have that be an experience that's nurturing, that sets the stage for the healing process, rather than adding further trauma.
Right. So before Holly's house opened, where would interviews be done of, children or
Right.
victims of sex crimes?
Adult victims would normally have been interviewed at the law enforcement center. Victims of children crime, there's a couple different locations. It might have been the Department of Children's Services office. It might have been the law enforcement center. It might have been another environment, maybe at school, maybe at a daycare center, maybe in their own home. But part of our process here is that we do film those interviews, and so there's a preservation need that's met with that, in that anybody who works the case, they all have the same statement from the child or adult that we're working with. And that saves that victim from having to go through multiple interviews.
From the moment someone walks in the door, it's welcoming. I mean, there's a deliberate
Right.
process and environment set up.
For the children we serve, and really any of our clients, the first thing they're going to recognize is that our service area is locked. And so the first impression we want any client to have is that they're going to be safe at Holly's house. We're very particular about who's in the service area, and we want our clients to know their privacy is going to be protected while they're here. The second place a child would stop would be our child's waiting room, which is just a beautiful room, not real bright colors like elementary colors, but warm colors, welcoming colors, million toys, something to keep the children entertained. And that's the first thing we want them to do, is just settle in, get used to being around us, our staff, the other team members who are here. And the playroom gives them a chance to do that.
Right.
There are murals in there that were painted by Dacre Sinclair, who's from Newburgh, very talented woman, of course. And that's part of making that room so welcoming. And that mural does continue down the hallway to our interview space. And it's just some bumblebees, butterflies, ladybugs. But what's nice with the younger children is we transition from the playroom to the room where we'll do the interview. That's something they can kind of look at, and we can guide them down the hall and, you know, just kind of keep the anxiety low by saying, let's see where the bumblebees are going, or how many butterflies are there, let's count them. And with young children, you know, that type of distraction can be very helpful.
Right. Well, tell me a little bit about the forensic interviewers. I believe you have 2 on staff.
We do.
All right.
Child forensic interviewing is probably an up-and-coming field, I believe. Of course, communities have been investigating child abuse for many, many years, but we've learned better ways to do it. And the child forensic interview, the process, one, it needs to be done in a way that it would be defensible in court. Should a court case come out of the interview, we need to ensure that our process hasn't in any way led the child, planted ideas with the child, appeared like we would have coached the child. So we do every interview using the same series of steps. All the questions are open-ended. We call it finding words because we want the child to use their own words. And then I think the most important part of that interview is what we call closure. And that's where we go back to very neutral, safe conversation. We talk about school or friends or hobbies or sports. Because we don't want the child to leave kind of emotionally raw after they've shared what is usually a secret or something they've held secret with us. So that closure step's very important because we kind of want to close the door on talking about hard things. So we are striving to bring multiple systems together to do their work. And in a case of child abuse, we have Department of Child Services needing to make a determination about a child's safety. We have law enforcement needing to make a determination about if a crime has occurred. And so we are trying to bring all those systems needs into one process here at Holly's House. But we do always put the client first.
Now, I know a lot of people are aware that Holly's House is in Vanderburgh County. What they may not be aware of is how many counties you serve and the numbers of people you serve. Could you?
We will recognize our 5th year of service in early September, so we are almost 5 years old. In that time, we've served over 1,800 victims of crime. The majority have been children, but we also serve adult victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. And we did really start with a Vanderburgh County focus, but within probably 2 years, we had grown to serve 9 counties. So we serve really the whole southwest corner of Indiana. We go up to Knox County, and we go as far east as Pike County, kind of that fan that comes out. So we are reaching a number of communities. Of course, for some people that means travel, because our services really are based in our facility. That's part of how we provide our service. But without something similar available in those communities farther away, this is still the best approach and the best environment to be talking to victims in.
We've talked about privacy, how important privacy is. And so to that end, you have 3 separate waiting rooms.
Right.
And we've talked about the one for the children. Can you let me know a little bit about the other 2 waiting rooms?
Right. Well, this room, the one we're talking in now, this is our teen room. This is the newest renovation for Holly's House.
Right.
And we did open with the children's room, which we all love. But after we've been open, we had a group of teens help us recognize that that room was not attractive to them. Working with teens, they helped us realize that they need a place to come at Holly's House where their first impression is that we kind of understand their needs.
And the adult room didn't do that either.
And the adult room did not do that either, right. And that really we've prepared for them. You know, I think if you see our children's room, we've clearly prepared for young children.
Now, someone special gave you this idea.
Yes.
And who was that?
Jessica Sigmund, who was a senior at Harrison High School. And the Harrison High School, they have a program called the Center for Family and Community Outreach. So Jessica was in that class, and a group of students from that class wanted to do a project for Holly's house. So they came, they toured. On the tour, they asked us, where's the teen room? That was the first step in realizing we needed a space for our teens that was really designed for their needs. And then she actually did a mock-up of a teen room as her senior project. So she designed what a room she thought would be comfortable for teens. She had some really neat ideas. One is the artwork from the high schools. She wanted something in the room that every teen we serve would recognize. So she approached the high schools and asked that a student artist at each school create a piece of art using the school colors or the school mascot, the motto, something that represented that school's culture. Because she wants every teen who's in this room to be able to identify with something in the room. She thinks that that gives then that kind of subtle message to teens that, you know, no matter what happened, no matter how awful their experience has been, there's a lot of people out there who care for them, who will support them, you know, who want to help them, and kind of help reestablish some of that self-confidence that can be a hurdle for someone as they recover. Then our third waiting area is an area that we kind of reserve for the adult clients that we're serving. But the really important thing to us by having 3 waiting areas is every family we serve has a private space while they're here. Often an aspect of being a victim of an intimate crime is you feel so exposed. And it's important, I think, that one of the things we're doing is giving our clients back that choice of who knows about this experience, who they choose to tell. So even when they're here waiting for services, if we're serving multiple families, they have their own private space. They don't need to worry about who they're going to run into, who's going to know they're here. And I think that's very important. That's a barrier that keeps a lot of people from coming forward for help. So part of the model that Holly's House was built upon is a model of partnership. We did not want to duplicate services in our community. We did not need to recreate expertise that's been here for many, many years. So the back section of our building really is reserved for the partners that we work with to help ensure that collaboration and that overlap of services. That really occurs on 2 fronts. One is the investigation piece of the crime. So we do have office space for the Evansville Police Department. We also house their Internet Crimes Against Children investigation program. And so that's one piece, is having, you know, them easily available when a client comes in to seek services or to file a police report. We also have office space for Lampion Center. And many people know Lampion Center has been in the community for over 100 years. One of their primary services is mental health counseling. And so they're our counseling partner. And then we have office space for Albion Fellows Bacon Center, who for over 30 years has been in the community providing support for adult victims of domestic and sexual violence.
So there's this understanding that it doesn't just stop with the interview. There's, you know, if you've been a victim, you will need services beyond meeting with the police and having it prosecuted or taken care of as a crime. The family still needs additional help.
Absolutely.
And that's right here in the building.
Right, yeah. Again, we're kind of doing multiple things, but I consider Holly's House, the best way I can describe us is we're kind of the threshold agency. We're the best place for a client to come when they first are seeking support, whether that's through the criminal justice system or just for their own personal healing. If they come here as an adult, they are not required to make a police report. So one thing we're going to do is educate them about that option, let them make their own decision. But with all of our clients, children and adults, the second piece after the interview is kind of that wraparound of services. So we do want to introduce them to those other services. If they're needing to go to safe shelter, we can make that plan while they're still here. We want them to know about the support groups and mental health services and all of those other vital pieces for their own healing. Because we do know when you've been victimized, healing it's not an event, it's a process. And we want to ensure the people we serve here have the right connections for their healing journey, have the support that they're going to need, keeping that secret close to heart and just having that recognition that people are going to understand what they've been through and that there's help out there. So
earlier today you were sharing a fun story with me that underscores that your outreach is working and that children are getting the message, and that's because your West Side Nut Club Fall Festival trailer is decorated with images and words from the Think First, Stay Safe program. You want to tell that story?
Last year when we had the opportunity to join the Fall Festival, which was great fun, we took that as an opportunity also to use our trailer as really a billboard. And we had great friends from In Your Face Graphics help with all of the decorating of the trailer. But what we put on it were the messages that we teach in our school-based program. So then when we were out at the Fall Festival last year, it was just really exciting. On more than one occasion, you'd see a child kind of dragging their parent toward the trailer, and just really excited because they recognized the messages and the imagery, and they'd just be saying to their mom or their grandpa or whoever they were with, I learned about that, I know about that, that came to my school. And sometimes parents would even take the time to say, well, what does that mean? Like I think we have an image on the trailer that says there's no lost puppy, because we know often children can be lured by an animal because they like animals. So we'd hear little kids explaining to their parents the lessons we taught them at school.
The message is getting out there.
And that was just, very rewarding for me and my staff, of course, because, so often we do our work as best we can, but you don't always know if it has a longer term impact. And so to see children, again, recognizing the imagery, talking to their parents about things they'd already learned, it's very exciting.
And last time I was here, you gave me some very interesting statistics about how many people you had served through that program, or children. Can you recall that right now?
We have now reached 10,000 children locally, and those are all elementary school children. So it has had a huge impact. Our goal, of course, is we'd like every elementary school child to get this information. We think it's vital for them to be safe in the world that they live in. The program does talk about other concerns like internet safety and bullying and drug use, so all of those problems that can overlap into a child's well-being are addressed in this program. So we are very excited for that success.
You mentioned In Your Face Graphics being a partner of yours, community partner, and you can't emphasize enough how important it is to have community support. I mean, Holly's House can't exist without community support.
Absolutely.
And I know, for example, the furniture in this room was donated by one of your community partners. That was who?
This furniture was donated by Ashley Furnishings. And a number of, actually, the local building trades unions really gave the donations of the seed money to get this room established, to do the construction that was needed, and volunteer painters. Really, Holly's House is rich with that history. The building we are in was a library, and when it was given to Holly's House, all of the local building trades donated their time to gut this building and create this facility, in which we've talked about is designed very carefully to provide an environment that sets the tone for healing. So from day one, before we even opened, that volunteer support, that community generosity has been key to our success, and of course continues to be, as with all not-for-profits.
You have some interesting pieces of artwork.
Yes.
I know when you go through the tour, you'll point out different things that, of course, they were all donated, but one in particular is the fountain.
Yes.
In the waiting area. Can you tell us just a little bit about that?
Yes.
Where that came from and how important it is?
Yeah, definitely a centerpiece for Holly's House is our fountain, which is in our main lobby of our client service area. A lot of centers like ours across the country would establish a tradition to somehow mark the presence of the lives they've touched. And most centers would be serving only children, so they might do pictures or paintings or handprints on the walls. But for Holly's House, we needed a tradition that was appropriate for adults as well as for children. So we have our fountain. And again, community spirit is the key. That fountain was designed and built by a local fireman. And then there's a poem that's etched on it. And the poem was written by a friend of Holly Dunn Pendleton, who is one of our founders. The poem is just wonderful in terms of talking about healing and hope and kind of planting that seed of encouragement for clients that we serve. And of course, it's got the water feature, which is just calming in an environment like ours. But within the well of that fountain, we have stones. And we invite every client that we serve to put a stone into the fountain. So those stones actually represent the lives that we've touched. And I think that's the part that I get a little teared up when I think about it. But, you know, again,
Sure.
just
every time you walk by and you see the stones, you know
they all
that's
represent
someone that you've helped and served.
right, a real person who is on a journey they did not choose to be on. And, you know, we just hope that what transpired here at Holly's house has, again, set the stage that they can heal and come out of that experience successfully.
Cookin Up Justice with Attorney Gayle Gerling Pettinga.
Thank you for joining me for another show of Cooking Up Justice. After meeting Sydney Hardgrave and Kathy Boyd, I'm sure you understand how important Holly's House is and why it's so successful at what it does. You can watch future episodes of Cooking Up Justice by following my blog, cookingupjustice.com, or subscribing to the Cooking Up Justice YouTube channel.
Cookin Up Justice with Attorney Gayle Gerling Pettinga.